Hello, y'all. This is Missy Screw, and this is my special guest, my sister, Loretta. And we will be discussing Game of Thrones, the first book, which is also called Game of Thrones, and the first season of the show, and comparing the two. So, out of all the seasons so far that I can think of out of the television show, and taking away from the fact that it changes stuff from the books, the first season has to be my favorite so far. And, they didn't really change as much, from what I can tell, in the books and the television show. Reading the books and watching the television show a couple of times, I haven't noticed that much being different. One of the major things that I have noticed that was different was a couple of people that didn't die, or what have you, versus in the books, they kind of come back into the play. And also, some characters just, well, they didn't even introduce some characters, but we'll move on with that. One of the biggest complaints that we had from the television show versus the books was our personal opinion of who the best Baratheon was. And that was what we felt was Renly. Renly. We loved Renly. In the books, it is incredibly hard to even tell that he's gay. They have like maybe 2 lines or something describing him being gay, possibly. And it's like a huge insult too when Stannis Baratheon says, well, sorry, that's in the second book, but they don't even really discuss him being gay in the first book.
Mm. Yeah. Nope, it's implied, like you said, in 2 sentences.
2 sentences. I bookmarked those 2 sentences in my electronic copy of a book, just so I could double check and triple check, just to make sure that that was the exact point when you found out that, hey, this guy might be gay. And even then, that's reading a lot into that simple situation. Like, if you want to go for the stereotypes, you could say that his rainbow guard is part of the rainbow flag, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's all I can really
it's still
say.
Really just, it's not obvious at all.
Yeah. So, yeah, we really didn't like the way they handled Renly Baratheon in the series. And even there, ignoring the fact that he's gay, we don't care if he's gay. Like, he can be gay if he's an awesome dude. And in the books, he's kind of an awesome dude. Like, in the books, he was described as a younger Robert Baratheon. Mm-hmm. Similarly naive, kind of brave, a good warrior, not
the best.
Yeah, not the best. And they said Robert was probably one of the best warriors, though. So if you wanted to take away from him, from Renly Baratheon, that part, he was a little bit of a less of a fighter than...
yeah, but he wasn't the complete, pansy in the TV show.
Yeah, he wasn't the complete pansy, and also he apparently wasn't the huge whoremonger that friggin' Robert Baratheon was.
Well, it's kind of hard to be a whoremonger if, you aren't interested in the vast majority of
If you can't get it up for women, you can't, put it in women. I can understand how that would be a problem. And also, what's funny about Robert later in the books, we find out there is a crap load of just random Baratheon children out there in the universe of Game of Thrones, or A Song of Ice and Fire, as it's known by the book series.
Is it Ice and Fire or Fire and Ice?
It's Ice and Fire. I double checked and made sure that it's Ice and Fire. I hope that it's Ice and Fire, and I don't get flamed for saying Ice and Fire to be Fire and Ice. Anyways, moving on.
I may just be thinking of Robert Frost.
Oh, he's a poet, or is he just a writer?
He was a poet. He wrote Some Say the World Will End in
Ice and Some Say Fire. Oh.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones could be a big analogy or a big universe centered around that idea, possibly. But he said he got an idea from something else, so we have to believe George R. R. Martin anyways. I mean, he's the guy freaking writing these books. We can't really debate what's going on in his head if he's telling us exactly what's going on in his head. We have to take it at his word. And so, another point in the first season, he wasn't an important character in the books at all, but he died. And apparently he's going to be a semi-important character in the 6th book. Like, he's appeared a couple of times, mostly in Daenerys Targaryen's flashbacks, whenever she discusses him. And, oh, by the way, like, there's a shitload of characters. There's over 1,000 characters in Game of Thrones. Please, for the love of God, look up these characters and know their names. I have conversations with people, and they're like, who? I'm like, look up the names. There's too many people to discuss. Just look them up.
Admittedly, saying who and then giving a description like, oh, that person, that's okay. Just like not having a clue who they are.
Yeah, it's really frustrating when you don't know the names, because a lot of the characters we discuss have point of views. Renly Baratheon isn't a point of view character. He's not a main character. He's a minor character who never does get a point of view, but they don't really give minor characters point of views in the first 2 books that often, except for Prologue where they die. They just don't make them... Like Robb Stark is another character who's a background character. He's there, and we're watching him and all the reactions that occur, but we never really see things through his eyes. So in the television show, they do show things through their eyes, and they kind of get it, because we wouldn't know Renly Baratheon is gay otherwise. He did a pretty good job of covering that in the books, and he should have done it. They should have shown that similarly in the show, but they didn't, and it should have been left up to skepticism, but whatever. Anyways, moving on.
I think they just wanted George R.R. Martin got tired of like, why didn't Renly screw the Tyrell woman? And at which point I imagine George R.R. Martin was just like, make it obvious in the show. I could picture an author doing that.
Just, make it obvious in the show, just blatantly state it. Also, maybe he's like, man, I've had enough fun screwing around with my fans' minds. I might as well just blatantly say, yeah, dude, this dude was gay the whole time. The 1% that believed, or however many percent believed, y'all were right. He was totally gay. The guy, a character that, like I was discussing, the character that died, that was in Daenerys Targaryen's flashbacks is Mago, if I remember. Yeah, it's Mago. Mago is her blood rider, if I remember correctly. Yeah, because he's one of the ones she gives one of the weapons to later, when she burns Khal Drogo in the books. One of the 3 blood riders that remains. And then there's nothing but old people after that.
Old people and slaves and cripples, I think.
Well, she frees them, but yeah, at the time they're slaves. Mago, he's not important until, supposedly, according to George R. R. Martin, the 6th book. And
whenever we finally see it.
Yeah, whenever we finally see it, and or important being a minor character and having some effect on the story, he got killed in the first season pretty quickly by Khal Drogo. He was the one that wanted to mount the magician lady. Her name escapes me. It's super bizarre anyways. It's like Aziz, like blah blah blah. It's probably not Aziz. Don't quote me on that. We said character names. I'm not looking it up. Y'all look that shit up. She's a Magi. Anyway, she's the Magi of Daenerys Targaryen.
Magi?
Magi. Thank you. I'm terrible with English. So, he dies pretty quickly in the series. Like, he's just kind of like, I challenge you. Or he challenges the fact that they stole his mount. And the series, or in the books, he just kind of is like, he doesn't really, like, do that, like, whiny little bitch thing. He does kind of like, brah, 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 brah. And then Khal Drogo's like, leave. And he doesn't fight him or anything like that. He suffers the wound, not from that battle, though that battle was pretty cool in the TV show. Like, I don't know, it's kind of a cool little fight scene. I don't know why he would just, like, when he stabbed him with the Arak, he wouldn't just, like, slice, and then try to slice Khal Drogo's throat. Like, why would he step backwards with Khal Drogo when he's being pushed? I mean, it's for dramatic effect, but I thought it was kind of silly at the same time, and it was cool. Mostly what made that scene cool was the Dothraki, where it's like, Anytime those words, anytime you utter some form of like Klingon, like ish language,
Who knew my brother was gonna bring up Klingon?
we're both here. Even you, the audience is raising their hands. I see it. The fourth wall has been broken. Y'all are all raising your hands. They're also giving me the middle finger and telling me to stop comparing Star Trek to everything. Not happening anytime soon. So yeah, that's what made the whole scene epic. And another point, George R. R. Martin, maybe he got lazy, but he never wanted to write all that shit in Dothraki in the books or whatever, so he just kind of blatantly was like, yeah, this is in Dothraki. Yeah, this is in High Valyrian. Yeah, this is in the Common Tongue. Yeah, this is in the Old Tongue. Yeah, this is in the whatever. Oh, I think the Old Tongue is what they speak up north, beyond the wall. But yeah, blah 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 blah. There's multiple languages. Well, in Gillish eventually. And Geese when she steals her slaves. Shitloads of different languages.
I know the giants speak it. I thought the wildlings spoke mostly the Common Tongue as well by now. I could be completely unknown.
Well, they would have to because Jon Stark spoke the Common Tongue.
Jon Stark?
John, he's a Stark, damn it! Don't deny this! Jon Snow! Whoops! That's a horrible Game of Thrones mistake right there. We even have his little, pop vinyl thingy right there, man. Jon Snow, look away, man. Sorry about that, yeah. Arya Stark. Jon Stark. God damn it! Jon Snow! So yeah. Okay, so another point about the first season that I feel needs to be made or needs to be said was that with similarly with I could bring up the point where he blatantly threw it over our heads that obviously Renly Baratheon was gay. Like all he needed to do was have that one point where Peter Baelish says, "And when we be having your man," that's all we needed to be known that he was gay. But in the television show, this is one of the reasons why I have trouble with the television show sometimes, even though it's a great show. And I'm sorry, fans of the television show, but not fans of the book.
They're both freaking awesome, though.
Yes, they're both freaking awesome. But the television show has to be, or is trying so hard to be blatant about everything. They make sure that you know everything. They don't make it complicated to figure out. They don't try to make things from your viewpoint and you trying to dissect who these characters are and what exactly is the truth. They tell you the truth. In the books, they don't even show Ned Stark's head falling off. They don't even blatantly state that. Because in the books, when we hear or when we know that his head is got chopped off, it's from Arya Stark's point of view. And they hide her from the view. In the show, I think they showed her looking away, but they also did a slight scene where they showed the head falling off, if I remember correctly, right? Or maybe they showed just him standing there without a head.
I don't think so. I'm pitting cosine, so I'm a bit distracted.
Damn it, cosine. Stop it! Game of Thrones is being discussed!
It's a funny little kitty!
Damn it, Arya Stark needs to control him. So...
Spoilers!
That's one thing I had trouble with the series. They have to be... They have to, they compromise the intellectualism of the book series. The looking into the things. You're kind of interpreting these from... You're not supposed to just blatantly get viewpoints from people, and you're not supposed to trust them. Especially not Jaime Lannister or anybody like that. When you get points of views from him.
Or Peter Baelish.
You get Peter Baelish point of views eventually?
No.
Well,
but you just can't trust the slimy son of a bitch.
Yeah, you can't trust Peter Baelish or Varys the eunuch. Or Varys the eunuch. You can't trust them. And so when you're reading the books, you kind of have to... Oh, and Theon Greyjoy. Definitely Theon Greyjoy at the beginning. Yeah, that guy...
Too far, George R. R. Martin. Too far.
Yeah, poor dude. Anyways, that's later. You can't trust what these people are saying. You have to make up your own mind from several different viewpoints, and that's what George R. R. Martin was going for. However, in the series, I guess because they didn't want to bring up that much material or make it too obscure and too confusing for people, they had to blatantly hit you over the head with what exactly is going on.
Well, I think part of the problem is it's much easier in a written medium as opposed to a visual one to maintain that kind of secrecy, that communication of the hidden and the secret. It's easier to maintain it. Whereas with visual, it's like, oh, there's not...
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to show
because you don't get their chain of thought, their emotional reactions. Like, oh, if a guy's really pissed off, the only way you're gonna know the character's pissed off in a show is they show him like, whereas, yeah, stupid noise. Whereas in a book, you could be just like, you could go into his head and actually describe it. Like, was fuming or something.
Yeah.
Just sitting there and describing his inner turmoil.
Yeah, comparatively with the show. But still, at the same time, I just wish the show didn't... Like, they even had scenes... Like, I don't have a problem with the scene. Actually, some of the scenes were pretty good. Like, this scene in particular that I'm going to talk about, the one where there was Loras Tyrell and Renly Baratheon. When Renly Baratheon, or Loras Tyrell was changing Renly Baratheon, or helping him get ready. That was a pretty good scene. Like, he was talking about how he's ready to be king. That set up the later things, and that made you understand Renly Baratheon more. And it helped his character develop and make his, spoilers, I guess, if you haven't seen it already, go watch it. His eventual death much more impactful in the series than it was in the books, but at the same time they made him much more of a wussy in the series. And yeah, he was supposed to be naive, and he was supposed to be this kind of green, to put it in the terms of Game of Thrones, person, but he was still supposed to be a badass.
To be fair, I'm not entirely sure how green you could consider somebody if they survived a siege.
Oh, he survived a siege?
The Siege of Storm End, where the Onion Knight got his knighthood from?
Wasn't that Stan? That was Renly? I thought that was
Renly
Stannis.
was with Stannis.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I mean, unless he, I'm guessing Stannis Baratheon.
I think they were at Storm's End, their families.
Yeah.
Ancestral.
No, that's where it was. And that's where the Onion Knight, helped him out.
Smuggling
Davos
in
Seaworth.
onions.
What? Davos Seaworth?
Really?
Yeah.
You went
Davos
there?
Seaworth is awesome. One of the best characters in the book. So. Yeah, he does run away. Okay, so, do you have any complaints or any discussion points for the first season?
Honestly, your memory is much fresher on everything than mine.
You've read the books, and you have a far better reading comprehension than me, so we will go with that. And end with me on a high note, after she complimented me. And thank y'all for watching. And for the next video, we will have discussion of Season 2 and the books. Thank you.